I think the boring conversation here is the same conversation everybody has with Dame. It's like, should Dame stay loyal to Portland or should he ask for a trade? Like that's like I'm not interested in that. Like Dame staying in Portland for now. You know, he's vocalized he's staying in Portland. Stop asking him the same damn question every single time you put a mic in front of his face. The man says he wants to stay in Portland. He's happy in Portland. His family likes Portland. Let him live. Let him stay in Portland. I think the question really is, okay, so where do the Blazers go from here?
You are now listening to The Dime with Josh Rodriguez, your weekly go-to podcast for all things NBA. And now, your host, Josh Rodriguez.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Dime, presented by the Balls Life Podcast Network. Are the Dallas Mavericks okay? Is Damian Lillard okay? Is Julius Randle okay? Kwab and I play a Western Conference edition of Frio Fugazi, plus hit on the latest NBA headlines. But first, if you want to follow Dime, you can on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, which hopefully will still be around in a little bit. That's a whole nother podcast.
Whole other podcast.
At the Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. He's Kwab at Kwab, aka Yes. You can catch all episodes of The Dime on YouTube on the Balls Life Podcast Network. So if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure you go onto YouTube, subscribe to the Balls Life Podcast Network. Also subscribe to the Dime's YouTube channel. I put up YouTube shorts and I put up segments from the show as well, just not the whole episode. Get the show 5 stars on Apple. Leave a comment, leave a review on Apple, Spotify, whatever your podcast platform of choice is. Kwab, what's going on, man? It's been a while. I'm sorry. I was on the East Coast doing the damn thing, whatever the damn thing is, but I was doing it.
But it was being done. It was
being done. The damn thing was being done.
It was being done. It's been enjoying March Madness. It's been crazy. My bracket is still perfect. So like this is what happens when you don't make a bracket. It stays perfect, people. Okay. Stop making brackets and then getting mad. It's gonna happen. Teams are gonna lose.
Yeah, I don't know why I get mad at my brackets as if I watched college basketball this year, as I expected myself to come in first place when I watched maybe like 5 total college basketball games this year, and I'm mad at myself for having my bracket busted. Like I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Like I can't believe they didn't win. I'm like, I don't even know what team this is, so I can't even be mad. So I don't
even know what state this college is in.
Exactly. Where is Michigan State? No, but my bracket is perfect. If anyone asks me, my bracket is still perfect. So, but go Miami. Go Miami.
That's all go Miami. Shout out Jeff Dyer.
Yes,
shout out Zach. And those are the only 2 people I know who live in Miami. So shout out y'all. Shout out
your parents. What are you talking about?
Oh, my parents. Well, my parents live in Florida, in the Miami area. Area-ish.
Too much info. We give them too much info. We give them too much info out.
I don't want to dox my parents. Let's stop talking about this. Are you ready to hit on some NBA headlines?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. First up, we got to talk about this. I mean, a lot of people, scorn when you talk about Kyrie Irving, but the fact is that Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic right now are looking on the outside in. They are the 11th seed as currently constituted. We are recording on Saturday, March 25th, right before the slate of games. So this might change by the time you hear this, but they just lost to the Charlotte Hornets last night, one of the worst teams in the association. Dennis Smith Jr. with the dagger, which is kind of ironic because they
revenge game for
Dennis Smith Jr.
That's the revenge game.
I teased it in the opening. Kwab, I'm going to ask you just straight up, are the Mavs, are they doing okay? Are they okay?
No,
no, they're not okay.
And that's fine. I think a lot of
it's not fine if you're a Mavericks fan. You're pissed off.
Well, yeah, I'm not a Mavericks fan, so I guess yeah. But it's I think is a lot. Some of it is very overblown. They shouldn't have lost the Hornets. That's embarrassing. The way they lost the Hornets, but the Mavs had problems before the Kyrie trade. Luka was coming off playing in the EuroLeague.
Yeah,
and yes, he did come in shape, but he did come into the season in better shape, but it felt like there was so much put on his shoulders at the start of the season after playing so much in the summer. He was going to end up wearing down. They have looked terrible defensively. And that was before the trade. They were struggling defensively. And then they gave up Dorian Finney-Smith, who on paper was your best perimeter defender, sometimes your best interior defender. And then Maxi Kleber was hurt for a while, who's also one of your best defenders. So then you throw in Kyrie, who's it's not like a little piece you're bringing in. That's a big, important piece. So you don't have a lot of time to figure it out. and make it work. They've been in every game, it feels like, but this was also happening before the trade, but every game feels like it's close. And they either end up pulling it out barely or they end up losing like they've been losing. Even the Hornets game, they end up being sort of close until, like you said, Dennis Smith Jr. hit the dagger. So yeah, they're struggling. There's a way for them to fix it defensively if they find ways to be more active and find better principles that work for them. But yeah, I don't know about a match made in hell. That's just, it feels a little
dramatic, bro.
Yeah, it is a little dramatic, but that's how everybody's making it very dramatic. And I see Kyrie catching a lot of the blame, which, as a Nets fan, I feel indifferent about it right now. But okay. I'm just like, but at the same time, it's not his fault. He's not the main culprit of the issue. They have other glaring issues. Some people also pointing to coaching with Jason Kidd. There's a whole phrase that the Bucks, I guess Bucks fans are saying, this is second year Kidd.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize it was a thing. And I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, he did. When he was on the Nets, he forced his way out.
He had 1 year with the Nets, though.
Yeah, the 1 year, and then the second year he forced his way out. He forced his way out to Milwaukee, and then Milwaukee ended up being some BS. So like, yeah, I don't know. I obviously you want to see the Mavs in the playoffs just because you have two of the biggest stars in the league, but they don't look good right now.
Yeah, they have no idea who the hell they are. And if you listen to this podcast, you know that I am really big on identity. And I'm really big on knowing who you are if you're going to be a successful basketball team. You got to know what offense you're going to run. You got to know what you do well on offense. You got to know what you do well on defense. You got to know what your role is. And I think bringing Kyrie into the fold kind of convoluted some things, but I don't think it's Kyrie's fault necessarily because I don't think Kyrie has played bad. And I don't think, it's his fault they had to give up Dorian Finney-Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie to get him. This team was thin to begin with, and now you're giving up two rotation players. And honestly, your second best scorer at the time, who was Spencer Dinwiddie, and you're replacing him, with Kyrie, who's better than Spencer. But even though that's an upgrade, you're not adding an extra dynamic to your team. So you're kind of just replacing Spencer and losing Dorian Finney-Smith. You're not really getting better defensively, which is why they made their run that they did last year, was mainly because of they've tightened up on D and became one of the better defensive teams in the league. And now they're not that anymore. And Luka can't carry them the way that he did last year. He's in and out of the lineup, and then Jason Kidd as well. I mean, when Jason Kidd got hired by the Mavericks, I'm not going to lie, I was like, how the hell does this guy keep fleet? Seriously, like does he have blackmail like on Adam Silver, like and everybody else? I mean, there's plenty of coaches out there who deserve opportunity over Jason Kidd. This man is not like a proven commodity. He failed in Brooklyn. He failed in Milwaukee. I understand he was an assistant coach with the Lakers, but he hasn't done anything to show that he can lead your team, to a successful championship run, be it that like last year, give him credit, they made the Western Conference Finals, but this year it's back to, what we've known from Jason Kidd. There's all this drama with Christian Wood and his playing time and how Jason Kidd uses him. Mark Cuban seems to be kind of desperate to hold on to Luka Doncic, and I think that's why he made the Kyrie trade. It just seems like the franchise in general is just panicking, and there's a lot of just frantic energy. There's no calm. There's no sense of stability. It's just panic, and no one knows how to fix this. And honestly, I don't even know if they have the roster to fix it. So I put match made in hell for those of you who are listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That's the headline I put that I consciously chose to put. But, I don't think it's a match made in hell in the sense where it's Kyrie's fault. But I just think he kind of came into a situation where a team that was just kind of on the verge of exploding, and they expected him to kind of save him, and he can't. He can't do it. Not because he's not good enough. They're just, they're not equipped to do so.
Because of how close all these teams are with the play-in and, like, what is it, 6 down and even 5 down. If you're not in, essentially, you're essentially in playoff mode. These teams are like,
yeah, they're playoff games right now.
Yeah, they're playoff games. Every game feels so important
at home.
Exactly. Like every game is too important to lose. Like every game, they say this every night. Every night, Western Conference game is being played, and it's one of those lower teams. It's not one of the top 3 teams. You hear people say this is one of the most important games of the season. This is one of the most important, and like you said, there's no sense of calm. I don't think they're the only team in the West that doesn't have the sense of calm. I feel like there's a lot of teams that are like, we need to pick it up, we need to rev it up, and if you're not bringing it every night, you're gonna have terrible showings like you did. Like I feel like everybody checked off like, oh, Mavs against the Hornets. Luke and Kyrie are both playing. Oh, that's a W. And it wasn't the case.
No, you're right. And just to go through the standings right quick, the Minnesota Timberwolves are the 7th seed at 37 and 37. The Lakers are the 8th seed at 37 and 37. And then the Pelicans are 9th at 36 and 37.
That's crazy.
And then 10th and 11th, you have the Thunder and the Mavs. I guess the Thunder have the tiebreaker, but they're both 36 and 38. So it's like the Mavs can win 3 straight, and all of a sudden they're a 7 seed.
Yeah.
We're having a different conversation. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if the conversation would change because to me, the Mavs, when they got Kyrie, they were in the 6th spot. You're thinking, oh, maybe they can get to the 4 or 5, maybe, have home court advantage for a round or two. And they went complete opposite direction. This franchise just kind of feels like they know they struck gold with Luka and they don't know how to really handle it. I want to ask you about Kyrie's comments. After the game, he did, I don't know how to take these comments. A lot of people think that it was taken out of context. If you listen to how he said it, but the quote was, you obviously want to play well, but it's only 5 people on the court that can play for the Dallas Mavericks. If the fans want to change places, then hey, be my guest. Got years of work ahead to be great enough to be on this level. But our focus isn't necessarily on the booze. It should be on performance. How do you take that? I mean, you're a Nets fan, so you've been dealing with Kyrie for years. And I know like you're laughing, but you've dealt with this. How do you take that? Like what would you say to a Mavs fan? Like, this is what Kyrie really meant.
You want to be the optimistic viewpoint you want to take is that the last part of what he said was they shouldn't be focusing on the booze. They should be focusing on what's happening on the court. Booze happen. Like if you're playing that bad, again, like I said before, they probably looked at the schedule. It's like the Hornets, no LaMelo Ball. Michael Jordan is selling the team. Like you're not like, oh, it's a W. Like we got this in the bag. The problem is you come out without your A game on any given night, you're gonna lose. That's why you play the game. And when you're playing bad and fans paid good money to watch a show and you're sitting there like, yo, we're really losing to the Hornets, you're going to get reactions like this from the fans. You're going to get boos and then maybe taunting and saying like wild stuff, which I'm always against, but it happens. But I think the main thing is him saying that, hey, the boo shouldn't be the focus. It should be how we're messing up and how we got to figure that out. That's the optimistic viewpoint you should take. It's Kyrie, man. Like, what do you want me to say, bro?
You never know what the hell he means.
The thing with Kyrie is that he has the prettiest game in the league in terms of just like when you're just looking at him play. He does things on the court where the top NBA players are looking at it like, yo, that's crazy. Yeah. Like the best players in the world are looking at him like, yo, that's great. He plays like a lot of people think they play in their heads.
Yeah, that's true. When you're fantasizing about going to the court
and doing so because of that, he gets a lot of grace outside of the court because he's one of one. Like it is what it is. Like a lesser player would not would make that same phrasing of the comments he made and would get a different reaction. With Kyrie, he always ends up getting a pass of some sort, or just he gets a bigger grace period, whatever it is. So yeah, that's the way I look. I just look at it. My viewpoint of it was like, okay, Kyrie said something during the conference. not shocked, not shocked. Like I just said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked either. I don't take the comments as if like he's like tearing the team down or if he's like coming in and being toxic. I think this is who Kyrie is, man. I mean, sometimes people say things and you go, no, that's him. Like it just is what it is. Just really do not look too deep into it. Like it was just an off the cuff. Like that's just who Kyrie is. Yeah. And you got to take it for what it's worth. But I think Luka's comments were a little more concerning for me. Now, I'll read them right now. He says, yeah, it's really frustrating. I think you can see it with me on the court. Sometimes I don't feel like it's me. I'm just being out there. I'm used to having fun, smiling on the court. But it's just been so frustrating for a lot of reasons, not just basketball. To me, that's very telling because to me, that's a vibe, right? You're not smiling. You're not having fun. You don't feel like yourself on the court. And a lot of it has to do with what's going on off the court. And I think a lot of people might read that and might be like, all right, well, definitely Kyrie has something to do with that, which I don't think is fair. I think it's more of like the Mark Cuban aspect of like, trying to be desperate into bringing people in. I think it's the Jason Kidd aspect. I think it's also the expectations of the trade while trying to, the media and then the questions and his injuries as well. And then on top of that, Luka Doncic is a human being who has things going on in his personal life that we don't know about that, may not be public. But at the same time, that's not good when your best player is vocalizing that, when the vibes aren't right, when the vibes aren't immaculate on the court. That gives me pause. And for whatever reason, I'm not saying it's Kyrie. Like I just said, it might be different things that I'm just speculating on, but whatever the real reason is, only Luka knows. It's not good. The Mavs aren't okay. When your best player is saying that, the Mavs are not okay, period. And I don't know how you just turn that around, in a week or two.
There are times when I watch him, I don't have fun watching him play. Like, just because
we don't have fun watching you play either.
There are times like he complains after every single play that doesn't go his way. That's why he's so high on the technical list. Like, every single play, some of it is warranted because the ref in this season has been very inconsistent, and that's all I'll say. I'll leave it as that. But it just feels like a lot of times when things aren't going his way, it's a lot of complaining. It's a lot of just mouthing off, like clapping and just getting, and it starts to pile on. Now, like you said, I don't know what's going on in his personal life. I don't know what are the outside noises that's causing him to, I guess, maybe feel this pressure or feel this sadness. But again, like everybody else that's going through stuff, I hope he ends up being okay. I hope it's not so serious where he's not able to find that joy in playing, because when he's having fun, when he's playing, he's marquee TV to watch.
Yeah.
You have two players that people love watching on the court on the same team. It's star power. Yeah. So it should be prime TV every time you're playing. It shouldn't be me tuning in and being like, yo, why are y'all getting cooked by Bryce McGowan's? Like, I shouldn't be. So, yeah, I hope for the sake of the NBA, just because they're two of the bigger names, I hope they're able to figure it out and maybe get into the play-in or maybe the playoffs. So, we get to see some exciting basketball. As a Nets fan, I'm indifferent.
Speaking of star power, let's move on to Portland, where Shams tweeted out right before we actually started the show that the Blazers are thinking about shutting down Damian Lillard for the last 9 games, pretty much signaling that they would be in tank mode. Now, the Blazers are in 13th right now. They are 3 spots out of the play-in. They're sitting at 32-41, which is only 3.5 games out of, the final play-in spot. But I think, you're closer to getting a top 5 lottery pick right now if you kind of tank a little bit, and that's where they're going with it. Kwab, are the Blazers okay?
The Blazers are never okay. Like,
they're never okay. They're always hurt.
They're always hurt.
Yeah, they're always like bandaged around the knees and ice packs.
Packs, like a broken calf or something. It's just the most randomness injuries.
It's so bad. There's so many injuries in Portland that Golden State thought they could blame the Portland training staff for Gary Payton.
Hey, yo.
Seriously. Like, they've been hurt for their decades. Golden State was just like, they're always freaking hurt. You might as well just like accuse them of some crap while we get Gary Payton Jr.
I forgot that did happen. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. We talked one of the early episodes I did with you. I said that they needed to get a voodoo doctor to like clear out whatever they got going on, just because it's always injuries, and it always comes down to they put together a team on paper. You look at the team like, okay, with Dame and all these players, they should be contending in the West. It looks good. They always start off strong, and then they start teetering off. Then a weird injury happens, and then they either have to decide to shut it down or Dame has to go like Superman mode to try to get them to barely make the playoffs. And when he does that, then they struggle because they put so much effort in just to try to make it. And then more injuries happen. It's always like a constant wheel with them. I don't know where they go from here. I don't know what
you can't really fix that, right? That's just bad luck. And I think the boring conversation here is the same conversation everybody has with Dame. It's like, should Dame stay loyal to Portland or should he ask for a trade? Like, that's like, I'm not interested in that. Like, Dame's staying in Portland for now. He's vocalized he's staying in Portland. Stop asking him the same damn question every single time you put a mic in front of his face. The man says he wants to stay in Portland. He's happy in Portland. His family likes Portland. Let him live. Let him stay in Portland. I think the question really is, okay, so where do the Blazers go from here? You're punting on this season, right? You have Shaedon Sharpe, who was a lottery pick last year, who I think has a lot of talent and a lot of potential. who I would like to see Chauncey play more. You have the possibility of probably getting a top 5 pick if you do tank correctly next year, which means you could potentially have another star on your hands, considering this is a very deep draft. So if you hit on that, that can be good. But the other side where it's like, all right, well, Dame's 32. He's not getting any younger. How do we do a rebuild while contending at the same time? I also think that, like, you have to make a decision on Chauncey, right? Like, is Chauncey Billups somebody who can win now? Is Chauncey Billups somebody who can lead a young team and develop them? We don't even know that about Chauncey. Chauncey was never really a head coach. So even though, you might be a defender of Chauncey, even though you don't think Chauncey is completely the blame for the Blazers and their situation at hand, I do think it's fair to question whether or not he's the man going for the future, because it's like we've never seen him develop players, and we've actually never really seen him win. And we're really in a dire situation where we need to win next year with Dame. We need to at least make the playoffs with Dame next year. So to me, I think the front office, Joe Cronin, has a lot of decisions to make, in the sense where it's like, I got to pick a direction and I got to go straight forward in that direction. And if that means I have to fire Chauncey, that means I got to trade draft picks to get, veterans. You got to do whatever you have to do, but you got to pick a direction. You can't just like lay in this little middle ground where it's like, well, I hope, if we get Jeremy Grant and, we get a little bit of like, Shaden Sharp here. Like, no, like you gotta go for it. You gotta make some moves. Like, I know it's easier said than done. I know there are not a lot of people out there who are available for this to happen, but Dame is in his prime. And he's not going to be in his prime much longer. I don't know if you can sit around and have Chauncey Billups as your head coach. I don't know if you could sit around and rely on people like Trendon Watford and Shaden Sharp and things of that nature. And I like Watford and I like Sharp. If you want to develop them, that's fine. But then what are you going to do with Dame? The Blazers need to pick a direction, because it's not fair to Dame, and honestly, it's not fair to the fans of the Portland Trail Blazers.
Yeah, they can't, like you said, they can't really play the middle. They got to figure out what direction they want to do. So, like, are you just going a full rebuild where you just basically give up everything? Maybe you trade Dame, which is, I feel like, is highly unlikely unless Dame says, hey, like, it's time.
But honestly, listen, if I'm Cronin, I don't even think I ask for Dame's permission. You have a franchise to run. I think you go to Dame and say, listen, Dame, we're in this spot as a franchise, and I appreciate everything that you've done for the Portland Trail Blazers and their franchise, but we have to move you. And then you give him the courtesy. Where do you want to go? Like, but I got to do this. You have to break up with him, like, essentially.
True.
You have to do it. I mean, he's a great guy.
But by the way, this treats you well. But again, this is all speculation. We're not saying that they should. We're saying they could. This is a possibility.
It's something that should be seriously considered. I think that.
My thing is always with that is, where does he end up? Where it also brings you back assets where you can move forward in rebuilding.
I mean, he can bring you assets to rebuild. Well, if you're trading Dame, you're rebuilding. Period.
I no, definitely, but I'm saying where, because it is a big contract.
Oh, like, where can you go?
Where exactly, like, could he end up where it ends up benefiting you as a team? Like, right. Because when you trade a star, you end up, regardless of how much stuff you get back, you end up, it's never a fair trade. You end up losing. It's never a fair trade, regardless of how you feel about it. You end up on because you're giving up a proven guaranteed star for, hey, maybe this pick could end up being somebody, or hey, this young player could end up developing into somebody. That's speculation.
No, I get it. I mean, you could look at Boston. We're talking about Jaylen Brown in a second. You can get Jaylen Brown in return and maybe a couple picks, or maybe young players. I don't really know off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Teams, the Pelicans, reuniting with CJ.
But then who are they getting?
I'm just saying, like, the Pelicans have a lot of young pieces. I mean, obviously Dame is going to want to go to winter, right? You can't ship Dame to San Antonio. He's not going to want that. Dame's going to want to go to a Boston. Dame's going to want to go to, I don't even know if he would want to go to New Orleans, but Dame might want to go to Los Angeles. Sorry, Blazer fans, but he might want to be a Laker. He might want to be a Clipper. He's going to want to go to a contender. Some of these contenders have assets. Now, I haven't sat down and like done the math, and I don't know who has what picks, but if done correctly, like, you can get a haul for Damian Lillard in like a year or two if you hit on these draft picks. If Sharp turns out to be what I think he could be, if you hit on this draft pick coming up, if Anthony Simons develops, you could be right back in, I wouldn't say contending, but you can be a nice young team going forward. But right now they're sitting in purgatory.
Yeah. They're just, like you said, sitting in purgatory. I only asked that because when KD first requested a trade over the summer, I just kept seeing like all the fake trades that people were making. I was like, okay, that's not realistic because you're getting Kevin Durant. But then there's like the realistic trades I would see. I'm like, that makes sense. And I could see that with Dame. For me, it's always been hard for me to see like, okay, where does he, if it ends up coming to that, where does he end up, or where it still benefits the Blazers in a certain way,
Yeah, you're
and
right.
the team doesn't get, so the team he ever ends up to doesn't end up getting so gutted, because
Yeah.
that's what always happens. You end up getting gutted, like, because
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask for whatever it is. So yeah, I don't know what they should do with the Blazers. Like, if they're shutting him down now, it's a signal like, hey, we're tanking. So if that's the case, are you resigning Jeremy Grant, or are you trying to find more pieces to put around him to move
Right.
forward for next season? Like, I don't know. They need to get that voodoo doctor though.
They need to get the voodoo doctor for sure, but they definitely need to pick a direction as well. I feel bad for Dame. Dame has, he's basically played in Portland his whole career. He's been loyal to the organization, and the whole loyal conversation, I roll my eyes at, man. Like,
Is
it's
he loyal?
it's so crazy how people just criticize like what a man wants to do with his life. Like,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean, the man finds a job he loves. Man finds a city he loves. Family loves the city. How dare he want to stay in that city and play
Ring, it's ring
and
talk.
continue with a job he loves? Like, are
It's
we being serious right now? Like,
it's ring. It's because of ring talk, ring culture.
ring
It's
culture is
not,
stupid.
it's become the conversation. It's like, oh, but he doesn't have a ring. He does. But then if somebody leaves a team to get a ring, they're like, oh, he's chasing a ring. You can't win
Right.
any.
You can't win.
You can't win.
Win.
So
And
do
Dame
what
knows
makes
that.
you happy.
You look on these interviews with Dame, he knows that he can't win. If he
Yeah.
stays, then he's running from the grind. And if he goes to the grind and goes to the Lakers, and all of a sudden it's like, if he doesn't win a ring, then he's garbage. And Dame knows that. And I think Dame doesn't want to play that game. But I also think Dame is also smart enough to know that this is a business. And I think, I think Dame, in the way he's talking, I don't think he's trying to signal a trade. I think he's trying to signal to Joe Cronin that it's okay if it comes down to that. Does that make sense?
So you saying that he's basically just putting out fillers, like, hey, if this happens, it's cool, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna
Yeah,
say.
I don't think he necessarily wants to go anywhere, but I think he understands the business, and I think he understands that, hey, listen, I'm a very valuable piece. The Blazers can get a lot from me, and if Damian Lillard, was the GM and I had this valuable piece, looking at the contract situations, looking at our roster, maybe I would trade myself, and I wouldn't blame Joe Cronin for trading me. Now, that doesn't mean I want to go anywhere, but I want Joe to know that if he comes to that conclusion, it's okay. It doesn't mean I want to go anywhere. It doesn't mean I'm asking for a trade. It doesn't mean I want to be traded. It doesn't mean I want out of Portland. It doesn't mean I don't love Portland, but it means that I accept the fact that this is part of the business, and I'll let it happen. I think when Dame talks about that, like, I want to win now, and he says things like, I'm not here for this. I think that's what he's doing. I don't think he's necessarily saying trade me. I think he's saying to Joe Cronin, it's a message to the Portland organization that, hey, it's okay if you come to this conclusion. I'm cool with it. I want to stay, but I'm cool with it.
What do you think is gonna break the camel's back for him to ever be like, get me off this team right now?
I think if Blazer fans start booing him, I think if he doesn't feel appreciated in Portland, I think if his relationship with Joe Cronin sours, and I don't really know how that relationship is, Dan, like I said, like, there are things that matter outside of basketball, right? It's, is your family happy? Are you happy? Do you like the city? Do you like your teammates? Do you like the organization? And Dame is comfortable, and I'm not going to hate a man for being comfortable.
True.
Like, and I think as long as that's there, I think he's fine in Portland. Why not? He's going to finish as the best player to ever put on a Blazer jersey. Like, why not finish your career there? They're going to build a statue of you outside the Moda Center when you're done. He has nothing to lose. And I think that's why some people critique him, because they're like, well, he's comfortable. He has nothing to lose. Well, yeah, he's like, wouldn't you love to be in a situation with your job where you have nothing to lose?
True.
Like, people act like you're supposed to go out there and like put yourself on the train tracks to get run over by a freaking train. Let Dame be happy, bro. Who cares?
I think the one trade that could have been made to maybe put him in that discussion of like winning championship was if they were able to get KD. If Portland was one of the teams like KD, if KD didn't say I want to go to the Suns, and if Portland was one of the teams, and they traded like Sharp and pieces and then all the picks for KD, that could have been like a team moving forward. Now it's just I like you said, I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah, he fits really well with KD.
Yeah, well, KD fits well anywhere. That's the
Yeah,
he's
that's true.
the
You can put KD on any other team.
he's
But
fine.
Dame
Yeah.
and KD specifically, I think, would be really good together. But like you said, yeah, KD would be good with anybody. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about my Knicks, man. Let's talk about my Knicks.
New York Knickerbockers.
Your New York Knicks. I was actually at the Heat game, the Heat Knick game in Miami. That was a very interesting game. I was with my mom and my cousins and my mother's boyfriend, and it was a great time. Even though the Knicks lost, my mom was yelling. I got booed for trying to start an MVP chant for Julius Randle. It was a good time.
That was
I got booed, just mercifully booed.
Heavy booed.
Just like
good.
I'm talking about we were watching the game and I made a comment to my cousin like, yo, I can't believe how quiet it is in here. Like no one's really cheering. Third quarter comes, Julius Randle finally gets the free throw line. And I started an MVP chant and the whole stadium booed the shit out of me. They all booed me. Me and my mom. I went MVP. And my mom looked at me. She went MVP. And it's just me and my mom. MVP. Yeah, booed.
And people say that people say Miami doesn't have a strong fan base.
They don't actually, man. I was actually really disappointed with that was whack. I'm not gonna front. It's not the Garden, bro.
Not everywhere is MSG, bro. That's what it is. Not everywhere is the Garden. Not everywhere is MSG.
The altercation with Julius Randle and Emmanuel Quickley. Julius Randle was upset at a referee because he didn't get a foul call that he wanted. Was barking at the ref. Emmanuel Quickley tried to jump in and save Julius from a technical and try to talk some sense into him, and Julius just kind of flips out on Emmanuel Quickley. Now, Knicks Twitter specifically is going crazy because this is not the first time we've seen this from Julius. And the vibes were immaculate for a while, right? For most of the season, the vibes were immaculate. Now, all of a sudden, his anger issues pop up again. And it's a big reason why Knicks fans feel like they underachieved last year. Are the Knicks okay?
I think they're okay. I think it's just Julius being Julius. I found it more to me. What was more funny to me was when after you guys beat the Nets, Mitchell Robinson tweeted out, "I'm the best center in New York, 10 toes down," and then he deleted it. I guess it wasn't 10 toes down. And now he gets after every bad game he has, he's get trolled by Knicks fans, by Nets fans. I mean, and they put up his stats. They're like, "Oh, best center in New York, 0 points," and then he responds. I'm like, please stop responding to the trolls. You don't feed the trolls. It's like. Is the worst mistake you can make. I think that's more of an issue just because you guys, he's needed moving forward. Julius can have a big meltdown and go crazy, but he's still going to show up and play hard.
Yeah.
Even when he's whiny or he's still going to show up and play hard. He's still going to go all out. And Tibbs is not going to bench him for acting out. That's his man's. He's still gonna give him the 60
Julius.
Yeah, you're going 70 minutes, Julius. You're gonna play all of them. It's all you, brother. All you. Nobody else. But it looked crazy. When he has those moments, they look crazy. On camera, when you're looking at it, oh my god, he's acting out. But I remember anytime the Knicks would play the Nets when KD and Kyrie were there so many years ago. And you guys, it would be like a whole thing with Julius. He would be playing well, then he would get frustrated, get a technical. At the end of the game, he would lash out, and then maybe you see his son crying. It would be his son's passionate. That's a passionate fan.
He's a passionate Knicks fan, bro.
There's a passionate Knicks fan.
Listen, to be fair, there are 40-year-old Knicks fans who cry every game too. So.
Exactly, but he wants his dad to play well. So I feel like I saw the clip, and my main reaction was he's probably frustrated. A lot of people have been frustrated with refs this year, and it was you guys are on a mini losing streak right now. Yeah. So he's frustrated. I don't think it's gonna be such a big deal. I feel like it because. With the type of players that are in the locker room now, with Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, it feels like a more I don't want to say veteran, but just more put together group that's going to hold each other accountable.
Yeah, no, I get that, man. I think my one worry would be, when you were in a locker room, when you're traveling with the same group of players and people every single day for 6 months, whatever it is, you develop friendships and you develop relationships, and some people may like each other, some people may not like each other. When your best player is kind of hard to be around and you have to
Yeah.
walk on eggshells around them, that might cause a little friction. I'll speak for myself. I assume that most of us have had people in our friend group who you really couldn't make a joke around, who you always had to calm down at the bar, who you always had to kind of just like temper. And that person, like, you don't always want to be around them. If
Facts.
I'm being honest with you, that's my worry. Now, if Emmanuel quickly is telling me it's okay, if Jalen Brunson's telling me it's okay, if everyone in the Knicks players are saying, hey, listen, it's part of the game and we got Julius's back, I got to believe what they tell me.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm taking a step back and I'm like, all right, they're saying it's okay. I'm going to trust the fact it's okay. But at the same time, I am human, and this is a human aspect. I know it's basketball, but it's a human aspect to not want to be around a certain individual because they're always yelling at someone, because they're always causing drama. And I think certain Knicks fans have that reservation about Julius, and I don't think they're wrong to have that reservation despite what the players are saying. Now, I'm going to take the route and believe the players, and I'm going to take the route and say, all right, IQ says it's fine. They just were at a fashion event the other day. They all seem to like each other and be cool. I think it's okay. I think it's fine for now, but I don't think it's wrong to raise a red flag and say, hey, I don't know how sustainable this is, and I don't know when the straw that's going to break the camel's back is going to come around, because I do think that's a possibility. He has another temper tantrum, and then all of a sudden it's not okay. Then all of a sudden IQ's like, yo, we've been down this road, and Jalen Brunson's like, yo, you can't keep doing this. Their reaction now might be okay, but if he keeps doing this, I don't know how much longer they'll be able to stand him, if that makes any sense, especially when you're the dude who's taken 15 shots in the first quarter to open the game. When you're the dude who's, who doesn't get called out in film sessions, for not playing defense. That stuff, this is all humans. This is not like basketball stuff. Like, there's a human element to it as well that kind of worries me. But for now, I think they're okay.
My thing with that is like winning cures everything. If you guys get back on a couple win streaks, this would be it would be like a blimp in the radar. Now, if you guys end up keep losing, it might come up again. Like against the Timberwolves, when he was going crazy in the first half and the first three quarters, I think, and then he ended up getting a technical at the end of the game because of frustration. And I think he even said he was mad at himself because he wasn't able to secure the rebound and win the game, but it ended up coming out. I think if you guys get back on the solid winning streak, get back to how you guys were playing before, this might end up being a blimp on the radar. So that's what they should be trying to focus on moving forward, especially with the playoffs right around the corner. This can't be something that pops up or keeps popping up, because it could end up affecting you guys going into the playoffs.
I think it's easier to be a blip on the radar when it's a technical foul out of frustration than it is when you're yelling at your teammate. I think when you start yelling at your teammates, I think we start yelling at your coaches, because he yelled at his coaches too in Los Angeles too. There was a moment against the Clippers where he was cursing everybody out on the bench, and Johnny Bryant had to go calm him down. So this is the second time it's happened in like
he's just passionate, man.
No, I get it's passionate, but like there's
there's
vibes, there's cohesion that needs, like, basketball is different. Basketball is not baseball. Baseball, you can go up and do whatever the hell you want to do. Baseball, when the ball gets hit to you, there's one thing you have to do that does not involve chemistry. I know vibes can carry over in baseball, and the team that really likes each other can play better because of the vibes, but you really don't need chemistry to win in baseball. In basketball, you need to like each other. You need to be on the same page. You need to communicate with each other. Every possession on defense, like it is something that needs to be done. And for me, I'm a little worried about that because his temper has gotten the best of him, in the past few weeks. And you're starting to yell at teammates, and it might be okay now. I just don't know if it will be okay later. All right, let's move on to the last headline before we get into some Farila Fugazi. And that's Jaylen Brown. He was interviewed and on the Ringer, and he was talking about his future with the Boston Celtics. He says he doesn't know if he wants to stay in Boston long term. Quote, as long as I'm needed, it's not up to me. We'll see how they feel about me over time, and I feel about them over time. Hopefully, whatever it is, it makes sense, but I will stay where I'm wanted. I will stay where I'm needed and treated correct. Kwab, is Boston okay?
Like the Boston in general? Is Boston okay?
No. We know Boston's not.
Because you know how I feel about Boston.
We hate Boston. Yeah. Anyone who's listening to this podcast, if you're from Boston, we hate you. We don't hate you. We hate your city.
Very, very personal.
We've had
experiences. Terrible.
Boston,
terrible.
Go to hell. Are the Celtics okay?
Are the Celtics okay? I think the Celtics are fine. But there's some of the stuff he said wasn't really surprising to me, just because Jaylen Brown, when he first got to the Celtics and when Tatum was there, he's always said he's felt like he was also an elite player. He's always said, I want to be an all-star. I guess one of the issues they had when Kyrie was there, and it felt like there was too many players trying to vie for that number one spot on the team.
Mm-hmm.
It was him, Tatum, Kyrie. They had Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier, Marcus. It was just felt like too many main players on the team. And one of the reasons they were successful last year was that Jaylen Brown, basically, without saying it, was basically said like, I'm the number two, but he didn't, like, you know what I'm saying? He didn't voice it, but it was just kind of understood like, hey, I'm the second best player on the team. And it is what it is. And we're gonna continue, we're gonna keep winning. I know for a fact that after they swept the Nets and then were able to get to the finals, for him to see his name still in trade rumors for KD was probably not. He probably wasn't happy about that, which is a natural reaction. Like, how are you gonna? It's like, hey, I did all this, and you guys are still trying to trade me. Why is my name on the trading block? Like, why am I not valued as the same way as like Jason Tatum is valued?
Right.
During the playoff run to get to the finals, he actually played really well. There were a bunch of times he played way better than Tatum. There were times where Tatum was playing terrible, and the reason why they were winning games was because of Jaylen Brown. So him making a statement, I can kind of understand where it's coming from. I would be actually very, very surprised if he was to leave Boston. The way they've established themselves, they would be stupid to let him go.
I agree.
They'll be very stupid to let him go. Like, you gotta, if whatever issues you have, figure it out. Like he said, he got on the phone with Tatum. He got on the phone with why am I drawing a blank on the former coach now, the manager. Thank you for Mr. Stevens. They got on the phone with Stevens, and they talked it out and hashed it out. So yeah, moving forward, like I feel like they should be okay, but yeah, I would be shocked if he ended up not being on Boston long term.
You know, it wouldn't shock me at all.
Okay.
I actually, yeah, I think I don't think he wants to be there anymore, and I think he has a little bit. We talked about this pre-show. There's a little bit of Kyrie in him. I'll bounce. I'll bounce. Like, I won't stay here.
Yeah,
I won't stay here where I'm not wanted. Now, I'm not saying he has a destination where he wants to go, but it wouldn't surprise me, if the Celtics, lose in the second round or some sorts, and there's a narrative going around about how, I don't know, maybe Jaylen needs to be traded or he wants out. It wouldn't surprise me. Now, I do agree with him in the sense where it's like, damn, like, you guys why are you trying to trade for KD? We went 6 games against the Warriors last year. We're 2 games away from winning the NBA Finals. When you're 2 games away from winning the NBA Finals, you don't make huge adjustments. You don't make big trades. You just kind of tweak something so that you win an extra game or 2. So for me, if I was him, that's how I would feel. On top of that, you have someone in Jason Tatum, and I don't know what the relationship is like, but you do know that, we're the 2 best players and this is our franchise going forward. You want to have that relationship with him where you don't feel like he's going behind your back and okaying a deal for anybody in the league.
Yeah.
If you and I were leading the New York Knicks, and KD was on the market, even though, KD is better than me, debatable. I would feel some I would feel some type of way if, like, you wanted to trade me for him just because of our history, our friendship, and because of like us carrying a franchise. So I actually totally get that with Jaylen Brown, and he seems like someone to me who's not going to play that crap, man. I think he's going to want out, especially if things kind of go sour at the end of this year. Now, if they turn around and they win the championship, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Like you said, winning cures everything. So I think it's to be determined, but I wouldn't put it past him to ask out of Boston. He said before he doesn't want to be in a place where he's not wanted. Then he's had complaints about the city as well. He doesn't think it's as friendly to black people as well, no one thinks that Boston. Anybody who knows anything about Boston knows that it's known as probably the most racist city in the Northeast. So it's not shocking to anybody who knows anything, but maybe to him it was because he's from the South, so maybe he didn't know about Boston. So to me, he has a little bit of Kyrie in him, a little bit of like, not so much I'm smarter than anybody, but like, I'm not going to stay here if I'm not wanted, or, I know better than you, or I can show you. He has that in him, and it wouldn't surprise me if he bounces.
Yeah, I think visually, first of all, to hear his name in trade rumors, and then to see like Jason Tatum working out with KD, like,
yeah,
it was like, I remember it was like back to back. That's gonna mess with you regardless. and you're gonna feel some sort of way about like, yo, what's going on in the front office? Because you guys have reassured me that, hey, I'm who you want. I'm here, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I hear my name in trade rumors. Like, you're going to feel some sort of way. And also understanding that, yes, people talk about loyalty and all this stuff, but the NBA is still a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like, if KD was like, I want to go to Boston, trade me to Boston, I'm like, Brad Stevens would have packed Jaylen Brown's bags himself and made it happen. Like, would have been his house. Hey, Jaylen, come on.
And try to send him in a cab that wouldn't have picked him up.
Exactly. Like, he would have done. I'm sorry. Like, it would have happened. At the end of the day, it's a business. So players also have that mindset. So I completely understand where it's coming from. I'm still at the point where like I would be shocked, and that's not more on Jaylen Brown's side. It's more on the Celtics
because they have to trade him.
If they were to trade him, I'll be shocked if they were to trade him.
He has one more year after this year, so next year is his last year under contract with the Celtics. So he could play that year out, and then he could bounce. So I'm not saying that he'll be out next year. I'm not saying he'll demand a trade, but going into next year, again, if you lose in the second round this year and then going into next year and maybe underachieve, wouldn't surprise me. He tests the free agent markets, and there's a team not too far away that might be contenders. They play in a garden. They play in a garden, baby.
Oh, please don't start.
Just saying.
Please don't.
Just saying.
Please don't start. Knicks fans thinks you're gonna get everybody.
No, Knicks fan. Actually, I'm a Knicks fan who thinks we're gonna get absolutely nobody.
You're the one. You're one of the few. You're like one of the three I know. That
players we've been linked to like in the past 20 years that we've never gotten.
I need to see that picture. Whenever you find that logo, the picture of like it's like Zion, Anthony Davis, LeBron, all in Knicks. It's all to get all in Knicks uniform. Everybody like that was
even Joe Johnson. Like we couldn't get Joe Johnson.
I remember that. I remember that. And now it's God. And now the hot rumor was like, oh, Shea, you don't get Shea. And I'm like, Shea's not
don't get me started with the Shea.
Shea's not leaving. The one star you guys should have had. You guys should have had and should have thrown the bag out was for Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell was obviously supposed to be a Knick. I blame Danny Ainge, though, because Danny Ainge is a psychopath, and he gets whatever he wants with these trades. He's that's Claire's, like, you can't convince me otherwise.
Sociopath.
Completely. Him, like, I thought it was Sam Presti, but it's definitely Danny Ainge has the crown. Danny Ainge will find a way, be like, yeah, oh, man, that's crazy. Just give me all your unprotected first round picks and a 20 and 10 player. Just it doesn't matter. Just bring it over here. I'll figure it out. You're robbing me. It's not Danny, baby. I know. Come on.
Well, you want me to rob you? You want me to do that?
Come on,
man. It's good for you.
It's good. Come on. I'm helping you out.
All right, well, Kwab, that's gonna do it, man. We, a little bit of a run through the latest NBA headlines to catch up our listeners on what's going on. We were going to do For Real Fugazi. My apologies, but the show has run long, and we're not going to make this an hour and a half show. We will save it for next episode. We will be doing a Western Conference edition of For Real Fugazi. But for now, we're going to go. You can catch all episodes on YouTube on the Balls Live Podcast Network. Also, you can find YouTube shorts and segments of the show on the Dime's YouTube channel. You can follow the Dime on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube at the Dime NBA. I'm Josh Rodriguez at Josh_Rodriguez_. Kwab is at Kwab, AKAS. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back in a couple days. Until then, enjoy the stretch run of NBA basketball. Peace.
Peace.